Hi, everyone. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Manitoba. I'm your host. And the news does feel tough to keep up with lately. And with all the big stories, it can be hard to figure out how to digest them and also how they connect to us here in Manitoba. But that's why we're here. So you're in the right place. Because every week on our podcast, we drop an episode covering major issues facing our province. And we'd love it if you would help us spread the word. Just take a moment, hit follow on your favorite podcast app, maybe tell a friend, then we can connect you to stories like today's, like what Calgary's latest water struggles could mean for the city of Winnipeg and the aging infrastructure here. So let's get to that.
Today is not a victory lap, although it feels like it. Today is a milestone, and then tomorrow it is straight back to work.
That is Calgary Mayor Jeremy Farkas speaking last week.
This repair has simply bought Calgary time, but we are now in a race against the clock. This water line, as said previously, is terminally ill. It is a ticking time bomb, and it's not a matter of if, but when it fails again. So our job right here in this moment is not to celebrate the patch. Our job is to deliver the replacement faster than anyone thinks possible.
This came after a major water main break flooded streets and forced severe water restrictions late last month. Now, those water restrictions in Calgary have now been lifted, and the water main was restored to full service. But Farkas says replacing the infrastructure is now his government's priority.
We need to do what would normally take 4 years in one single calendar year. That's the challenge. This is about the basics: clean water, safe homes, functioning hospitals, and a city that's ready for emergencies.
The water main break in Calgary was dramatic for a couple of different reasons. So the initial break flooded a major roadway. In fact, it actually sent an SUV several feet up into the air. And the fire department had to rescue more than a dozen people from their cars. And it saw one of the country's most populated cities under water restrictions for weeks. People were asked to conserve water, take shorter showers, and then advised to boil their drinking water. But it also issued a wake-up call to other Canadian cities like Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa, and this is Manitoba, a province where the water and sewer infrastructure has seen better days. But how bad is it? Could we find ourselves in the same position that Calgarians did this winter? Well, this actually wasn't the first time that city and that specific water main faced a water crisis. Let's go back 2 years, June of 2024. The Bears Paw feeder main suffered another catastrophic break. So what is this? Well, it's a 6-foot wide pipe. It's in northwest Calgary. It's responsible for carrying nearly 60% of the city's potable water. At that time, public pools and rinks closed, outdoor watering bans were issued, and residents and businesses were asked to restrict their water as much as possible. After that, the city undertook a review to look at what went wrong. Siegfried Kiefer is the chair of the Bear Paw Feeder Main Review Panel.
This is an emergency situation. Calgarians, we all don't need to go to sleep at night thinking, well, maybe tomorrow I won't be able to have my shower because the pipe has failed again. And you will find in our report that we do a very good job of tracing back over 20 years of history in terms of what has caused us to arrive at a place with infrastructure that is not adequately resilient enough to give reliable service to Calgarians.
Now, here in Winnipeg, underneath our streets, there are many pipes of the same age and material like the one that broke in Calgary. We've also seen our own share of water woes. In the 1980s, water main breaks were a regular problem.
Beneath the streets of the city of Winnipeg, there runs about 2,200 kilometers of water pipe. But Winnipeg also has corrosive soil and nasty winter weather and a lot of water main breaks. The city keeps track of how often and where the breaks occur, and those trouble spots are replaced with new pipe first, slowly because there hasn't been much money available in the past for needed pipe replacement. The program announced today between the city and the province will kick in $3.3 million, half from each, for 41 extra sewer and water main projects.
It'll give us about 7 kilometers of new water main this year. which will be about 30% of this year's program, so it's a very important contribution.
The projects will also create jobs, 2,700 man-weeks worth of work, more important from the province's viewpoint because the program is part of its job creation package. As for the water main replacement, there are still many kilometers to go.
Well, some estimates we did this past year indicated that we should have a 20-year program at a roughly $8 million a year expenditure level. This year we're up to about the $6 million expenditure level.
So for Winnipeggers, the rites of spring will include the annual Sprung Water Main Obstacle Course for the foreseeable future.
In fact, there was a 1982 project to expand storm drain capacity that was touted as a solution to basement flooding.
Rainstorms in the past decade flooded more basements and damaged more homes than during the 1950 flood. The city began a major program to upgrade its aging sewer system 5 years ago and has already spent more than $40 million. To promote that program and Public Works Week, the city arranged a sewer opening ceremony below the intersection of McPhillips and Mountain. While some came prepared for the sewer opening, the rest put on overalls and safety helmets and climbed down. Mayor Bill Norrie signed the proclamation inside the sewer, which is big enough to send 6 people across. When it opens next week, the sewer will easily handle thousands of gallons of rainwater and waste every day that would have backed up the old system. Back on top of terra firma, Norrie warned that even when the citywide project is completed, not all basement flooding will end.
It will not really mean there will never ever be a flooded basement, but it certainly will minimize to almost non-existency the problem of flooded basements, because it depends so much on the whole question of when the rain comes and what quantities and how it all comes together as to whether or not there will be flooding. But basically it should reduce it to virtually nil.
The city will spend about $10 million a year on the project until it's completed about 10 years from now. When that happens, giant storm sewers like this one 22 feet below will be able to handle the runoff from even the most severe rainstorm. Lawrence Wall, CBC News.
And then there was the great pipe freeze of the winter of 2013-14.
Frozen pipes led to some heated debate here at Winnipeg City Council this morning. They're going to be looking to other governments for help as that frost gets even deeper and the cost of these frozen pipes reaches disaster levels. It's been 4 weeks without water and round 2 for Ron Dorman, whose pipes froze twice.
My house is disgusting. I can't say any other word for it.
He's paid to have the lines thawed twice, more than $600. But good news came today at Winnipeg City Council.
And all those in favor?
Aye. Those who paid out of pocket to thaw lines dating back to December 1st, 2013 will be reimbursed by the city.
And that creates an even playing field for the majority of citizens.
The credit could show up on the next water bill. Dorman says it's too little, too late.
This has been a disaster since the end of January.
That's something the city could agree on. A hidden disaster beneath the ground, thanks to Mother Nature. Now the city wants help. It's going to apply for disaster financial assistance from the provincial government.
You know, it's called DFA disaster, but you don't need a disaster. You know, you need a unique set of circumstances, which is exactly what we have.
One that could end up costing the city between $3 and $5 million between the equipment and staff overtime. The trick is if frozen pipes will meet enough of the criteria for disaster money.
This event, very different than a flood, but still has incremental costs related that would be similar to a flood's.
The city has nothing to lose by applying, but as the frost deepens to 8 feet and another 900 homes at risk, they hope the province doesn't freeze emergency funds too. Jill Kruber, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Oh, that winter, 2013-14 was especially cold. It broke centuries-old records. I can still feel it. More than 25 customers, if you were here at the time, you'll remember, dealt with frozen pipes that season. It cost the city more than $8 million in overtime, materials, equipment, and communications with homeowners as well. But Winnipeg has put the lessons from that experience into practice. With its own in-house hot water thawing machines and electrical thawing equipment, increased coordination with Public Works, better tracking, and also by burying water pipes lower underground during repair and renewal work. Overall, Winnipeg is more prepared. Still, it does not mean the system is not vulnerable. CBC Civic Affairs reporter Cameron MacLean dug into just how at risk our water system still is, and whether a catastrophe of Calgarian proportions could be in the cards. He starts off by explaining what Calgary's Bear Paw Feeder Main Review Panel concluded after looking into the 2024 break.
It found that Calgary had known about problems with this type of pipe since about 2004. Inspections and upgrades were repeatedly deferred. Siegfried Kiefer, the chair of the panel who we heard from in the intro, he described this as a system-level failure. Not one bad decision, but decades of many decisions leading to underinvestment in resilience. Many cities across Canada have installed the same kind of pipe decades ago, including Winnipeg.
So how worried should we be?
Well, we do have similar types of pipes, 1970s vintage pre-stressed concrete cylinder pipes. And Winnipeg has about 120 kilometers of these under our streets, and these are mostly what our feeder mains are made of. But Winnipeg city officials and councillors argue there's some important differences between Winnipeg and Calgary. Winnipeg adopted stricter construction standards decades ago, and we never relaxed those standards when industry practices changed.
So walk us through some of those differences.
Well, a lot of it comes down to what the pipe itself is made of and what surrounds it. These feeder mains, they're made from pre-stressed concrete, which is wrapped around steel wire. And over time, corrosion in the soil can damage those wires and weaken the pipe. And that's what happened in Calgary. The review found that corrosion played a big role. Winnipeg officials say our pipes were built to stricter standards and with extra mortar protection. And the city's soil, actually, we have really thick clay soil in Winnipeg, and that actually helps slow the movement of chemicals that penetrate the concrete and corrode damage the steel. There's also an issue of scale. Calgary, their pipe, as I mentioned, is 6 feet wide, and Winnipeg's pipes are generally smaller and they're more widely distributed. Lastly, Winnipeg's system is highly interconnected, which means that water can be turned off and rerouted if one feeder main is broken, and it can be taken out of service.
Interesting. And that clay soil is good for something, at least. It's
helping us in one way.
If a feeder main did, though, fail here, what actually would happen then?
Well, Tim Shanks, the director of water and waste for the city of Winnipeg, he says redundancy is the key difference. Because the system is interconnected, they say most of the feeder mains can be shut down without causing major drops in water pressure citywide. The message from the city is that a failure would be disruptive, but not catastrophic in the way that Calgary's was. That said, Winnipeg has had serious pipe breaks in the past. You might remember in 2024, a sewage pipe crossing beneath the Red River at the Fort Garry Bridge broke. That pipe also dated back to the 1970s, but importantly, it was made from a different material, a type of high-density plastic. In that case, crews actually had identified problems with the pipe during routine inspections, and they were actually in the process of trying to fix that when the pipe failed.
Now, you said the chair of Calgary's review panel cited decades of investment in resilience when it came to Calgary's water supply. So I'm just curious why people there didn't see this coming.
Well, experts say underground infrastructure is hard to sell politically because people don't see it until it fails. It doesn't get as much attention as maybe a new bus line. But raising water rates to replace pipes also isn't popular, even if it prevents much bigger problems down the line. That tension is kind of at the heart of what happened in Calgary. Here's Carrie Black. She's a civil engineering professor at the University of Calgary.
No one's elected on putting in a new pipe. No one's elected on making sure that your water costs a bit more so that we can make sure we can maintain it.
And according to the city of Winnipeg, our infrastructure deficit, meaning the total cost of all the unfunded capital projects from 2024 to 2023, was about $8 billion. That includes aging roads and bridges, sewers and facilities that need upgrading, and water mains. Ross Eady, the chair of Winnipeg's Water and Waste Committee, said he took some offense to the idea that the city has avoided those tough decisions. He points to the recent increases in the city's sewer rate, which is meant to fund the upgrades to the North End sewage treatment plant. He says he and Mayor Scott Gillingham get angry messages from residents about this, so he argues city officials are paying the political price.
Well, that's all for today. Thank you so much for listening and watching. We'll be back with another episode next week.